Stephen Kristof back again with more on Short Stories to Enjoy with Wine, Volume 1. All right, so I've told you a little bit about what this book is, but I've had a lot of questions from readers who are wondering about specific things about the stories inside this book or characters or in general where I get my ideas, things like that. And I'll address some of those questions on a few future podcasts. But right now I'd like to address that one burning question that a lot of people have who haven't bought this book yet, who are considering it. And the question is this a book about wine? My answer is absolutely, unequivocally, kind of. So, what do I mean by that? Well, obviously it's about wine to a certain degree, or else we wouldn't have wine as part of the title. But understand that it's also short stories. So, are all the stories, or are any of the stories about wine? Most of the stories are not actually about wine. Most of the stories about all sorts of different types of people and occupations and situations and everything across a wide spectrum. But there are a couple stories that are about winemakers or a winery owner. That, for instance, but wine still plays prominently, and here's how it works. So I'll pick up a story at random here. This one is called, if you can see it here, Sauvignon Blanc, and it's he said, she said. So the name of the story is actually She Said, He Said, and the subtitle of this story is Sauvignon Blanc, reverse subtitle. So for the first couple of pages in this story, page and a half, there's a little bit of information, some really interesting tidbits about Sauvignon Blanc. Sauvignon Blanc, for instance, by the way, is a varietal. Now, varietal is a fancy term we use in the wine world to apply to a wine grape variety, a variety of grape that's used to make wine. It's called a varietal. So this particular story, as it's, I'll call it a wine mascot, is Sauvignon Blanc. There's a little bit in the first page and a half about that varietal that you may not have known, and something maybe about a wine pairing, something about how it's grown or made, maybe a notable, interesting fact. All right, so they go from there into the story itself. So how that's done is a clever segue. So, for instance, I may be talking or writing about a wine grape varietal that has a thin skin, and so you'll read how. Also, with the very thin skin is our main character, according to her coworkers and friends, or so on and so forth. So there's a clever segue into the story, and what happens when most readers are into it, they don't even really think about how they moved from the little bit of information about that wine style or varietal into the story itself, and before they know it, they're very well into that story and enjoying it and moving along. So that's how it works. Now, the other question is often, well, I mean, if not every story is about wine, and again, most of them are not, then do we continue to have some sort of a connection to the name of the story, the subtitle of the story? And the answer is yes. So, for instance, this is an interesting one. One of the stories, the subtitle is Cheap Boxed Wine. Seriously. And in that story, from time to time, the main character either draws a glass of wine from, or there's some mention of the box of cheap wine on her kitchen counter. And so this is how it continues through. One way or another, though, that reference to wine, or that particular wine style of varietal, continues throughout the story. Again, wine lovers, wine drinkers, wine enthusiasts, or just people who enjoy the odd glass of wine will really enjoy this, and they'll enjoy the fiction, and it is, again, a great gift for people who like wine and who like fiction, and it's a great gift to yourself for the really nothing other than the purpose of sitting down and relaxing and enjoying some good literature, a page-turner, and if you want, some wine on the side. All right. Till next time, Stephen Kristof, Short Stories to Enjoy with Wine.